What if the secrets you've always imagined were hiding in plain sight? Fresh revelations suggest our government might be concealing evidence of technology not of this world. In November 2024, Congress held a groundbreaking hearing on unidentified anomalous phenomena that left many questions unanswered. And today, February 14th, we're releasing brand new material, the official Questions for the Record, along with former DoD insider Luis Elizondo's detailed responses. These follow-up questions posed by Representative Eric Burleson were specifically designed to clarify and expand upon the key issues raised during the hearing, from non-human technology to mysterious transfer attempts. Let's dive in, and once we're done, we'll take a moment to discuss what it all might mean. First question: does any branch of the United States government or defense contractors, aerospace and otherwise, possess technology derived from a non-human source? Response: yes. I served as the senior ranking person of the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, ATIP, within the Department of Defense, DoD. ATIP investigated unidentified anomalous phenomena, UAP. ATIP engaged senior executives at DoD, defense aerospace companies, who claimed they possess recovered exotic material not made by any U.S. or foreign source. Because these executives indicated that they could no longer glean additional insight from such material, they initially agreed to allow ATIP OSAP to take custody of the material. Confirmation of this may be inferred from an official DoD Office of Pre-Publication and Security Review DOPSR document dated September 6, 2023. This document authorized the release of a statement by Dr. James Lakatsky, the former director of the Advanced Aerospace Weapons System Application Program, OSAP. The statement, marked clear for open publication, reads in part: the $22 million allocated for DIA OSAP, after speaking to multiple individuals on the program, was originally intended to skiff out Bigelow Aerospace facilities in Las Vegas due to a UAP material divestment plan proposed to OSAP leadership by Lockheed Martin Space Systems Vice President Dr. James Ryder, now deceased. This statement addressed the crash retrieval of UAP material recovered during the 1950s and other historical operations. I was also informed that immediately following the terrorist attack on 9/11, the U.S. government significantly reduced its UAP legacy efforts due to the budgetary constraints associated with the global war on terror. Second question: does any branch of the United States military or defense contractors, aerospace and otherwise, employ exotic materials of non-human or non-terrestrial origin in any application, including aircraft and watercraft? Response: yes. The U.S. government or a defense contractor has in its possession exotic materials of non-human origin. Third question: has the United States government or defense contractors made new breakthroughs in physics that are currently undisclosed to the general public, including at the university level? Response: yes. Fourth question: are you aware of any evidence or indication that the United States military or defense contractors have recovered craft of non-human origin? A, if yes, were there non-human entities associated with these craft? B, if yes, were the non-human entities recovered alive? Response: A, yes. I am aware of several incidents where the U.S. military and certain defense contract companies recovered craft vehicles of non-human origin. In some cases, biological specimens were recovered from such crashes. B, I am unaware, however, if any of these specimens were alive at the time of the recovery. Furthermore, I am unaware if these biological specimens were complete specimens or partial due to the nature of the crashes. Several key scientists associated with both OSAP and ATIP were part of a conversation sponsored by the White House in approximately 2004 to determine if the U.S. public was prepared for the acknowledgement of UAP by the U.S. government. After approximately 1 week of deliberations, the decision was made that the U.S. government should not disclose any UAP-related information to the public. Fifth question. Is it possible UAPs are extra-dimensional rather than extraterrestrial? What I mean by that is it possible that UAPs might not fit in the traditional narrative of aliens from another planet, but could instead be entities from other dimensions? Response. Yes. Several scientists within ATIP proposed that UAP may have interdimensional or even cryptozoological origins. Leveraging cutting-edge knowledge of quantum physics and human consciousness, some scientists suggested that non-human intelligence, potentially responsible for operating certain UAP, might be as integral to our environment as other natural phenomena. However, we currently lack the tools to observe or measure them using conventional scientific methods. Another hypothesis put forth by ATIP scientists suggests that UAP may originate from the depths of our ocean. There is a well-documented correlation between large bodies of water and UAP activity, which could explain why the U.S. Navy has reported more incidents than the other services. Notably, as of June 2024, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration reported that only 26.1% of the global seafloor has been mapped with modern high-resolution technology. Sixth question. Are you aware of the recent claim made by journalist Christopher Sharp regarding Bigelow Aerospace, Lockheed Martin, and the CIA allegedly blocking the transfer of materials of advanced non-human origin? Response. Yes. The CIA opposed the transfer of materials of advanced non-human origin from Lockheed Martin to Bigelow Aerospace. Seventh question. Can you confirm or deny the attempt to transfer non-human technology to Bigelow Aerospace from Lockheed Martin during your time at ATIP? Response. Yes. I can confirm that specific facilities were identified to enable Bigelow Aerospace to acquire and securely store recovered UAP materials as the new custodian following their transfer from Lockheed Martin. These facilities included locations in the Las Vegas area and a newly built hangar at the Patuxent River Naval Air Station, PAX. Specifically, the Pax River hangar was designed to facilitate the transfers of future materials via air and river. The hangar was purpose-built to meet the requirements of a Special Access Program facility, SAP-F, and was capable of accommodating materials at any classification level. I was informed that funding for the hangar, approximately $10 million, was allocated at the request of then Representative Steny Hoyer. I have visited this facility. However, as it was a new construction at the time, no materials had yet been transferred. Eighth question. How was it determined that Lockheed Martin had such non-human technology to begin with? If so, how was it confirmed by Lockheed Martin? Response. I am unable to answer this question due to a lack of direct knowledge. Ninth question. Were you aware of any efforts by the CIA to block the transfer of UAP-related materials or information during tenure at ATIP? Response. Yes. And similar obstructionist efforts were also made by the U.S. Air Force. There seemed to be passive resistance from certain elements within the Central Intelligence Agency and a more active campaign by specific factions within the U.S. Air Force to suppress inquiries and investigations into the UAP topic. 10th question. Do you believe that the CIA or other government agencies are actively working to conceal UAP-related information from the public? Response. Yes. Many of my former colleagues and I have faced retaliation for our public advocacy for UAP transparency. This has included efforts to suspend or revoke our security clearances, as well as direct threats to our safety and that of our families. Some elements within the DoD and the intelligence community I see have engaged in what can only be described as administrative terrorism to deter individuals with security clearances from raising the issue. Other forms of retaliation have included harassment, surveillance, adverse bureaucratic actions, unauthorized data leaks, criminal investigations, and even death threats. Additionally, efforts to discredit whistleblowers and spread disinformation to the public and Congress by certain Pentagon public affairs officials have persisted for at least 7 years, if not longer. 11th question. Was any or all of the $22 million said to have gone to OSAP program earmarked for this alleged transfer of non-human technology from Lockheed Martin to Bigelow Aerospace? Response. The $22 million that funded OSAP ATIP was directed to a variety of programmatic needs, including commissioning academic studies on advanced physics concepts, funding civilian personnel and contractors, and conducting field research. As a result, 37 of these academic studies were published as Defense Intelligence Agency Defense Intelligence Reference Documents, DIRDs. See Attachment 3 for a complete list of published DIRDs. In addition to my response above, I strongly encourage the committee to obtain the U.S. government's current UAP Security Classification Guide, which outlines the classified aspects of UAP and their level of classification. Additionally, the committee should review the latest UAP collection requirements from the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, as these may highlight critical gaps in our understanding of UAP relevant to these inquiries. Thank you for the opportunity to testify before this committee about this urgent matter. Please do not hesitate to contact me if I can provide additional information or be of any assistance. Very respectfully, Luis D. Elizondo. Before I do some analysis of some of the question and answers that Lue Elizondo answered, I want to play a clip from when Tucker Carlson interviewed David Grush. This is Grush saying where we need to go in this process.
I'm here, it's time to reconcile this. We need to heal from this. We need to disclose the basics, the fact that we're not alone. We've recovered material and we've recovered the occupants. And beyond that, the president can decide what should be disclosed. It's above my pay grade, but the basics should be acknowledged. And I think it's a more ontologically shocking, but also uniting thing in an era of divisiveness. I think we need this.
I agree with that.
I mean, what else is going to unite the left, the right, and potentially our adversaries?
I like what Grush said here. And one of my philosophies when it comes to disclosure is that UFO disclosure or confirmation, whatever terminology you prefer, is a much bigger deal than we can comprehend. There's no way to anticipate the sociological outcome of this kind of revelation beforehand, because in your best attempt, all you're going to have at your disposal is your imagination. You're not actually going to experience it. Furthermore, whatever game planning you do in your head to anticipate what disclosure is going to do to civilization, that game planning probably has deficiencies and probably falls short overall. And this is a very important philosophy because it underscores why I'm so aggressive or why I'm so prone to highlight the necessity that we get this transparency or this confirmation, because I think it's a much bigger deal than any of us perceive. I think that this is a kind of shift that can't really be understood until it happens. And it reminds me of the movie The Matrix, when Morpheus was explaining to Neo that unfortunately no one can be explained what the Matrix is. You have to actually experience it yourself. And I feel like that applies to disclosure. No one can tell you, no matter how smart they are, no matter how spiritual they are, no matter how imaginative or articulate they are, they cannot tell you what disclosure is going to mean for civilization. Because it's not one thing. It's so many things. It's consciousness, it's religion, it's our assumptions about how governments function and what they can keep secret. It touches on things we can conceive of and things we fail to conceive of. And it's a process that will unravel over time. So disclosure is not even a singular event. It's the first domino that leads to all kinds of realizations as we go. So in that light, it's impossible to have a clear understanding of the sheer impact disclosure will have. It's a tectonic new lens for us to have that we'll all be forced to look through. Like the very lens, our very perceptual lenses of reality will change in a dramatic way, which filters everything else we see, understand. Our thinking processes will change. So how could anyone ever hope to fathom the impact of disclosure? Impossible. It would be like, and maybe this is a bit of an extreme metaphor, but it serves its purpose. It would be like saying that you could imagine what the afterlife is going to be like. You can listen to near-death experiences, you can read books, you can even sit in deep meditation and have mystical experiences through your meditation, but you are still not going to truly comprehend what the afterlife will be like until you actually experience it. We don't understand disclosure. You can't understand disclosure. And to me, that's why it's such a tragedy that we're still in the pre-disclosure world. This is so much bigger than we make it out to be. It's not a nothing burger. It's not, oh, we just learned there's other life forms in our biosphere. No, it's so much bigger than that. And when you truly make the effort to conceptualize that as best you can, it's only then that you understand the tragedy of the cover-up, the tragedy of the disinformation campaigns, the tragedy of the alleged reality that aerospace companies have these non-human craft and bodies in their possession, and they're the only ones that get to contend with this truth and grapple with it, but the rest of us don't. I'll touch on the healing that David Grush referenced when he was talking to Tucker Carlson, but first, let me reiterate a question and answer that I'm particularly interested in. Representative Burleson asked, is it possible UAPs are extra-dimensional rather than extraterrestrial? What I mean by that is it possible that UAPs might not fit in the traditional narrative of aliens from another planet, but could instead be entities from other dimensions? Lue Elizondo responded, yes, several scientists within ATIP proposed that UAP may have interdimensional or even cryptozoological origins. Leveraging cutting-edge knowledge of quantum physics and human consciousness, some scientists suggest that non-human intelligence, potentially responsible for operating certain UAP, might be as integral to our environment as other natural phenomena. However, we currently lack the tools to observe or measure them using conventional scientific methods. Another hypothesis put forth by ATIP scientists suggests that UAP may originate from the depths of our oceans. There is a well-documented correlation between large bodies of water and UAP activity, which could explain why the U.S. Navy has reported more incidents than the other services. Notably, as of June 2024, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration reported that only 26.1% of the global seafloor has been mapped with modern high-resolution technology. So that really gets to the heart of part of the conversation we would have around the dinner table and in other areas of life. And that conversation is, in my opinion, the healing that David Grush is talking about, or at least partly the healing that he's talking about, because we are basically in an artificial environment that was accomplished by interests that wanted to keep this from the public. Yes, it's true, the phenomenon itself is responsible for that too, by the way that the phenomenon engages humanity. But we don't have open contact with the phenomenon, so we can't make assumptions about the way they should or should not behave. But we can make assumptions about the way humans should behave because we have standards that we have agreed upon. And so, obviously, it's not in our interest to live in an artificial construct, which is what the pre-disclosure world is. And so the healing is significantly related to us finally having the conversation about our universe based upon the way our universe actually is. Unfortunately, over the past 70 plus years, where allegedly the US government and other governments have known about this truth, our conversation has been predicated on falsehoods. We have assumed we're alone. And there are allegedly other entities that know scientifically we are not alone. And so a big part of the healing is for us to start looking at our universe and discussing our universe in a way that reflects the truth of our universes versus in a way that reflects the artificial construct that has been successfully permeated our civilization through efforts governments have made by lying to the public, covering it up, threatening witnesses, classifying everything. It's just completely artificial. I want to cover one more question from the question and answers, which is number 3, and I quote, has the United States government or defense contractors made new breakthroughs in physics that are currently undisclosed to the general public, including at the university level? To which Lue responds, yes. Now, before we delve into how problematic that is, I want to play a clip from, I think it was July 11th, 2023, when Ross Coulthart interviewed David Grush. It aired originally on News Nation.
And while Grush says the US has gleaned some insight from these materials for military use, so much more could be done if academia and the private sector had access.
It's totally nuts that humanity as a whole, especially the U.S. citizenry as a whole, they're not even benefiting from broad research on this to solve propulsion, energy issues, novel material science that can improve people's quality of life. It's just totally nuts how it's been protected and inhibits progress.
If you're right, if you're telling us the truth, everyone, the entire American public, has been lied to for decades.
Yeah, there's a sophisticated disinformation campaign targeting the U.S. populace, which is extremely unethical and immoral.
So this is another part of the healing that has to ensue, where we connect with the inspiration and hope that would naturally emerge if we collectively knew that we have alien technology in our possession. It would be hopeful for those of us living now, and it would be also hopeful for future generations. That has been taken away from us because we've been lied to, at least I think we've been lied to, regarding retrievals of these technologies. So there's so many layers to how artificial the environment actually is that we're in because of the cover-up. And imagine, in the Tucker Carlson clip, he talked about how disclosure would be such an overwhelming unifying force between different nations, different sides of the political aisle. And I think one of the reasons for that is because we would all be so overwhelmingly in agreement on the importance of cracking this technology to improve the quality of life, not just for us living now, but also future generations. So it would, by definition, unify us because we'd have so much more to agree with and so much more we could get on the same page with versus the environment we're in now where we're being lied to about our universe. Now, earlier in this presentation, I said that disclosure is bigger than any of us can fathom. And that's not to suggest that people will be having a cow or crying or lashing out as a result of disclosure. In fact, I would argue that this transformation is deeper than emotions. It's a systemic change that is on a layer that's even deeper and harder to necessarily articulate or perceive in some respect than emotions which are easily accessible and noticeable. Now, I'm not saying there won't be emotions involved, but I do think there will be a systemic shift in the way we think because the equation has been so fundamentally shifted from what it was. The mere fact that we go from making the assumption that we're alone in this world to knowing that there's other entities in this world, in our oceans, in our skies, that alone would just shift the equation irrevocably. And so that's something that's systemic. It's not just emotional. So it's deeper. Emotions are generally fleeting, but a systemic change is something that has permanence. And so I do stand by the idea that disclosure is far bigger than any of us could successfully manage to understand objectively or accurately. It's only something that we will understand when the time comes. And I think it's very plausible that in a post-disclosure world, we'll actually mourn for all the years we were living in a pre-disclosure world in a way that we can't do now because we're behind that threshold. So we can't mourn what we don't understand. But when we go beyond that threshold into a post-disclosure world, that's when we can mourn. And I do think we will mourn. I genuinely think that because reality suddenly becomes far more interesting and mysterious than it ever was before. And that's what we were missing out on. And we were also missing out on the hope and inspiration that would come with disclosure, knowing that there are technologies that we have at our disposal that we could someday crack and improve the quality of life for everybody. And then there's consciousness implications to disclosure too. We might start to see consciousness differently. These factors are not existent in our present experience because we live in a pre-disclosure world. So I do think we will mourn over the loss. And the idea that there's a good argument for continuing this artificial environment we find ourselves in is preposterous. And I think that corporations and government entities and military interests that think that we should continue doing this, I think this is just my subjective opinion, I think they're engaging in mental gymnastics and overwhelming bias and maybe even willful ignorance because they don't want to see the whole picture because they want their version of reality to be true. And if there is a God, it seems to me that it's a self-evident truth that God would want us to know the full expanse of creation and not be living in an artificial scenario where only select people know the full expanse of creation. With that, thank you so much for watching, and please do not forget to subscribe. If you'd like to support my channel, you could become a YouTube member, you could become a patron, you could give me a one-time donation. All those potentialities can be accessed in the description box below, or you can just slap a like on this bad boy and I'll appreciate it so much. Thank you so much for watching and I look forward to seeing you in the next episode. Special thanks to all YouTube members, patrons, those that have bought merch, those that have given me a one-time donation. I couldn't do it without you. Thank you so much. See you in the next episode.